Welcome to our continuing series in Savitri with our brother Alok. We are continuing Book 10, the book of the Traveler of the Worlds, Canto 10, Kingdoms and Godheads of the Little Mind. And we will begin at page 245 at the break. But perhaps we can say a few words about today's darshan. I have had the great honor to be with Sri Aurobindo 3 times, and Mother confirmed my meetings with him. And the other day, when Kittu finished his talk, he ended with, "Just love him. Just love him." And you can say more. I'm a little filled up.
I was overwhelmed by one part of the message today. It's just part of the message. Of course, there is a context of the message which is not here, and I feel it's important to give a context. Also because the message is not just a set of words with a meaning, but it's a force in action. So it's Sri Aurobindo's consciousness going in a certain direction with a certain purpose, and to disconnect with that purpose and is sometimes to deflect it. So this message is given to someone who wants to leave the ashram and go away, who is going into depression and revolt people go through. It's the pressure of transformation, and it's much more difficult to give up on the ego than to give up on the divine possibility. It's a strange thing but true.
Yes.
So obviously somebody wants to go away, and here he has asked questions like, where am I, what am I doing here? The obvious answer is you are in the ashram. What are you doing here? You are working for your spiritual progress. But here the answers are very profound. So Sri Aurobindo takes it where you are. Of course, it's in the ashram context, as I said. And Sri Aurobindo's answer is, in the mother's presence here and close to me. This close to me was very touching.
So beautiful.
I just imagine that what it means to be close to Sri Aurobindo, the Lord in his embodied form, close to me. This is very touching.
Yes.
So he doesn't say that where you are in the ashram. That would be a more general thing. Of course, to different people, Sri Aurobindo would give different answers. It's also true. But to this particular person who has questioned, he says, you are in the mother's presence here. Mother's presence is everywhere, but here it permeates in the very physical. So there is a very special presence, special work. And then he says, close to me.
Close to me.
The second is, where you are going. What are we doing here? This question sometimes comes. So very often people who do work, and there is a letter of Sri Aurobindo, work here is not a means to show off one's capacities. It's not philanthropy, it's not service to humanity or any of those things. It is, like everything else, a means of union with the divine. And then after that, and to the degree that the union is affected, she says, the divine will show you your place in the universal.
Yeah.
So, but the first is union with the divine. So he says, where you are going, towards union with the divine. And what is the process for it? Through dedication and service. So simple sadhana is.
Mother asks Dilip Kumar Roy, why are we here? And he struggles with many, many different possibilities. Well, to serve you,
To please Sri Aurobindo.
to please Sri Aurobindo, she says.
We are here to
Simply
please Sri
that, to
Aurobindo.
please Sri Aurobindo.
And it is whole world of meanings, To
Yes.
please the Lord means to be utterly sincere. And look at it, very beautiful that this answer is. Dilip Kumar Roy had a kind of reservations towards mother.
Yes.
He had his own difficulties. Now, to please Sri Aurobindo, by its definition, means to turn to the mother.
Yes.
Because that is what Sri Aurobindo
Yes.
has asked us to do.
Yes.
What you are doing here, service and self-giving to the divine. So what are we doing here? It's not this work, that work, but we are serving the divine and giving ourselves to the divine in whatever way and in whatever measure, to whatever extent we are, called upon to do and we are ready to do. Because then comes the last one. The rest depends. There is something missing here. There are 3 dots. In the actual letter it is, the rest depends as the mother says. I don't know. It's such a beautiful thing.
Should never have left it.
Yeah, there is no need because this mother, as the mother says, like, because when he says the rest depends as the mother says, it's a combined force.
Yes.
Sri Aurobindo is affirming what she has said. So it's an important thing. It is not like, it doesn't add much. That's a typical language way of looking at it. The rest depends, as the mother says, on the simplicity and fullness with which you give yourself and serve. So it all depends on how sincere. Fullness comes only with sincerity. No part is left out in its giving. So it's a very beautiful message. Of course, as I said, the message is very long. It's in Collected Works of Sri Aurobindo, volume 31, if I am not mistaken. I don't recollect the page, I had seen it, but it's worth going and reading the full thing. It's about people who used to go into depression because of the pressure of yoga here and go away.
And at that time, it was very strong.
Very strong, very strong. But these suggestions come even now. I've seen people,
Oh, yes.
they come, then these suggestions come, then these are forces active in the atmosphere which want to take one away. So,
Mother said, destroy my work.
yes.
They wanted to destroy her work.
So with this background, we come to this, and in a way, one of the obstacles to yoga, again, which is a step from the evolutionary point of view, from another point of view, it's an obstacle, it's the mind. Mind is an evolutionary step from life, living beings to mentalized, thinking, rational humanity. But when it has to go beyond, it becomes an obstacle. It has to learn to be quiet. But the mind itself is not a single movement, but a 3-layered movement. There is a mind which emerges out of matter and is deeply held in the grip of matter. Then there is a next stage of evolution where it is in the grip of life and its wild force. And then the mind proper emerges, which is more the mind of humanity, which is a rational mind. Though it should be common, but not yet.
The physical mind,
The vital mind and the rational mind.
Rational mind.
And there are ranges of mind beyond which will come in the greater mind.
Yes.
So here Sri Aurobindo starts with the mind as it present. It manifests in humanity and in its evolutionary hierarchical manner. So a dwarf, 3-bodied Trinity was her serf. The slave of this mind who served was a dwarf because it always remains, its movement is very low, mostly scanning the surface. Even rational mind, only when it's upturned and inturned, that it really begins to climb higher. Otherwise, even rational mind is a dwarf entity because it's, as the Gita puts it very interestingly, it uses the word vyavsaitmak buddhi, which is turned outward and downward. And Sri Ramakrishna used it in a different way. He says, some people are like the Gid. Gid is a vulture. So they are birds, they fly, but their eyes are fixed on the piece of meat on the ground. So it's a dwarf mind because it's still gaze is turned downwards. And 3-body Trinity. It's a single mind with 3 movements which are intertwined with each other. So first he describes the first one. First, smallest of the 3, but strong of limb, a low brow with a square and heavy jowl. Now, jowl is, of course, the lower part of the face, cheeks, the lower part. So, even physical description sometimes matches. And if we see the early evolution of mankind
Exactly.
from the ape, you can actually see this description. There is a low brow and there is square and heavy jowl. So, literally, because it's not yet developed. So, this part of the cranium which must develop to accommodate, and this must, get back into proportion, that will come later. So this is the first level of layer of evolutionary mind which persists in all of us. A pygmy thought needing to live in bounds. So who is primitive is nothing to do with your dress or your literacy, but somebody who lives in very small boundaries of thought. Forever stooped to hammer fact and form. And of course the fact here is the outward fact and the external form. So one is only busy looking at that and at external facts. So if one sees that, and there are many people who get disheartened, who get disillusioned, because they do not see the deeper working and the still deeper working and the oneness which is there. So they just hammer. So there are people, we often meet who are very worried about 30, 40 years down the line, because there is a prediction there is going to be global warming and the earth is going to be destroyed. So now, this is scientific superstition. Global warming is a fact, but what is not understood is that there is a greater consciousness which always has its own plan, which will unfold. How it will unfold? Now we have to be concerned is okay, but there is a thin line between being concerned and believing oneself to be the doer and the all responsible creator. Concern means I do my bit and maybe even inspire others to do your bit, but to be over concerned that, well, if I don't participate, the earth is going to be destroyed. So
Be disturbed.
Be disturbed, absolutely.
Yes.
So fact and form is this, because it doesn't see a greater consciousness which is at work.
But that lowbrow hammering, what a vision.
Yes, vision. Fact and form.
Yes.
So, absorbed and cabined in external sight, it takes its stand on nature's solid base. So, external sight. So, very often people ask, have you seen the mother, Sri Aurobindo, as you were mentioning? So, you talk about a vision or an inner experience, you talk about touch, feel, sense. It doesn't make any sense to them. They want to see outwardly in flesh and blood. Now, that's that'll also happen, but where is our sight ready for that? But that's not their concern. A technician admirable, a thinker crude. So this mind has its place. The Stone Age tools, the Bronze Age tools, Iron Age tools. So you remember these ages for the tools, not so much for the philosophies.
Yes.
So this is excellent when it comes to using the external nature, material nature and its means and processes for working out certain things. But it's very poor when it comes to philosophy and deeper thought.
Now, Sri Aurobindo is speaking of this nature, but in India, it was very different.
Well, it's true in India because of the saving grace of the psychic touch. Because India is special. Mother and Sri Aurobindo have said that.
Yes.
And they have said because it is meant to, India is the grand laboratory of spiritual evolution. And all kinds of spiritual processes, means, methods, ways, philosophies have been nurtured here because it's meant for that. So because of the saving touch of the spirit, at one point Sri Aurobindo says where the avatar has manifested more than once, many times. So because of that, India is a special land, so always the touch of the spirit was there. But even during those days, there was this mind, but because of this, always overpowered. So that's why in India, you have, a typical, we will see as we read through, this mind, when it turns even towards God, it limits God into tradition, custom. It cannot go beyond it. But in India, it has been believed that the word of the master is greater than any written scripture, which is a big saving grace. Unlike many religions where a scripture written maybe 5,000 years back or 2,000 years back is the last word. But here you have the living masters, and each one comes and adds a fresh realization. So that is the saving grace. But right now, at this mind, a riveter of life to habits grow. So this is the mind which wants a fixed technique. Tell me what I have to do every day. So once it picks it up, it will practice it. So riveter, somebody who fixes with nails and
Yes.
so it fixes life to grooves. It's extremely disciplined, but because of that, it sometimes tends to become rigid and begins to lack plasticity, and hence it takes away the creative impetus of life. Obedient to gross matter's tyranny, a prisoner of the molds in which it works. So it has to be like this and it has to be like this. But a creative mind, the vital mind which imagines and conceives, begins to play with matter in very different ways. It picks up dust and takes out the chip which can take you to the moon. That's the creative mind. It is the mind of the adventurer. But the traditional mind will, this is dust. Dust is dust. Nothing more than that. So, a prisoner of the molds in which it works, it binds itself by what itself creates. A slave of fixed mass of absolute rules. It sees as law the habits of the world. It sees as truth the habits of the mind. So, habits of the world, the habit of falling sick, the habit of aging, the habit of dying. It says it is a law. It has to be like this. But a creative mind will say, no, I must discover, I must go beyond. I want to know how we can stop aging, how we can conquer death. That's how it forges into new areas. But a traditional conservative mind it doesn't want progress. It says, no, what our great grand ancestors didn't do, we will not do. We have to just repeat all that they have done in the past, and thereby it becomes a big detriment to progress. And similarly, sees as truth the habits of the mind. So, mind thinks in certain ways and it believes that that is the truth, but the mind can look at the same thing in very different ways. When a deeper wisdom comes, one example that comes to my mind spontaneously. Someone saw a devotee who came all the way and died few days back, on the train. They came for the darshan and the lady died. So now it's one way to look at they came to ashram and she died. This is how a typical mind will think. It's a habitual thought because we believe that life is so important and death is something very dark and negative, and there is a truth behind that argument. But another way to look at it is that she wanted to die in a place like this, which gives her a evolutionary leap. Now, it's very difficult for the typical mind habituated to look at life in a certain way to conceive this. And I know of a real incident where a young boy died in an accident as they took a turn toward the ashram. They were not coming to the ashram. But the boy somehow wanted to come, this boy. No, we want to go to Pondicherry. It was Pondicherry. And this boy took the family of, 4, this boy being one of them. And as the car turned Oroshika, there was an accident and this boy died. And then later on they came and they met me and they were mentioning that, now we understand what he meant when he was insisting, I want to go to Pondicherry, I want to go to Pondicherry. Yeah. He wanted to leave. Now they understand. It took them time to absorb. Then they became devotees. Literally brought them here and brought them to the feet of the mother and then vanished into her. But the mind which sees only the external form will always say this is a very tragic incident and it shouldn't happen. So this is the a different way to look at it, but mind thinks habitually, and that's what is regarded as truth. In its realm of concrete images and events, it reminds me also of a very funny story. A story of one of the Doshi. I think it was Nagin Doshi.
Oh.
So he was admitted in the hospital when he was not well. So all kinds of things happen here. There is a pressure of truth, and a lot of muck also comes out. Your hidden tendencies come out. Now people don't understand this logic. So when he was there, and people are very perfectionist because they live here, they see the cleanliness, and so it seems he made some remark to the doctors and the sisters that you're not doing your job well. So the doctor said, but you are living in an ashram, you ought to be, you shouldn't be bothered about these things. So he said, no, you don't understand about yoga. And he is right. But if you look at from the external point of view, people expect a yogi will eat any kind of thing, should be able to live in the most, dirtiest environment, which is also a truth.
Yes,
That's the amazing part. A yogi should be able to. But it is also true that when you begin to live here, and as you grow in sensitivities, the same thing with organ donation.
Mm-hmm.
When people feel that why is organ donation should not be done, spiritually it is not recommended. So in ordinary life it doesn't matter. You can't have the same rule everywhere. In ordinary life, in ordinary consciousness, you can give anything to anyone. But when you take to spiritual life, even in vital interchange with people who are not tuned to this life can become dangerous, harmful. So organ donation is a big interchange, it's a big bond. Now this is another kind of logic which we can't understand if we are glued only to the surface appearance. So, but this is the habitual thinking. In its realm of concrete images and events, turning in a wound circle of ideas, and ever repeating old familiar acts, it lives content with the common and the known. And now we are going to enter into 5th December. Mother says between 5th to 9th, so many suggestions come, which people, Sri Aurobindo also went away. So this is a habitual thinking. And it's so strange, even people who have some touch of the grace of the spirit, they believe if the body dies, you die. Anybody with a little inner sensibility knows that the body is death. Is not death. It is only destruction of the form.
Throwing off the cloak.
Yeah. And the person remains. And what the person is going to do, even let's say in Sri Aurobindo's case, to facilitate the process of eventual physical transformation, we have no clue. So all that we can say is very logically and impersonally that he is working from behind on the same aspiration. If not on his body, I'm saying impersonally, then on the body of the world, preparing it. But that's not how the habitual mind fixed in, no. Sri Aurobindo went away, therefore this yoga won't work. The aspiration survives, the idea survives, and the hope survives, and the work continues. That's the other way to look at it. And now he speaks of, it loves the old ground that was its dwelling place. So the first challenge people meet when they come to the ashram is this, today by the way is also the day when ashram was in a way formally formed. When Sri Aurobindo was asked, he said, though no date was given, but you can say that 24th November is the day when ashram was formed. Now one of the big challenges is that you want to come to the house of the Lord. But house of the Lord means no more your way of life. It's the Lord's way of life. In my little house, I am the boss. So I do the way I want to do. I live my life, I have a comfort zone. But when you come here, it's no more your way of life. Even living in an ashram house brings you to that consciousness grows in you that, it's mother's place. You can't just live the way you were living your old life. So it's a sea change. But it's very difficult for the human mind to accept even a simple thing like dining room food. People ask sometimes, why can't we serve this? Why can't we do that? And Ved Prakash ji was very clear. He said, people have come here for sadhana, let them eat this food. And of course, it's a very good, I can't, but that's for many who are, who have opened in that dimension. But there are many people who have this difficulty. First difficulty to negotiate is Pondicherry weather, then the traffic, then the language, the food, the ashram environment, the way of life is very different. You go to the gate, in outside life we are given so much importance. Self-importance, self-conceited importance, if I may add. Here, the fellow at the gate will not look at your eye card and what big officer you are. He will simply say,
mobile
go back.
Mobile phones.
Mobile phones off. Come at 8 o'clock. Open your slippers there. So your ego is hit hard. Well, he is doing his job and a good job. The first thing is to chip off the ego. But this little mind feels very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It wants to go back to its comfort zone. So you see, it's there. It loves the old ground that was its dwelling place. Abhorring change as an audacious sin.
Oh.
This reminds me of another story. Change is an audacious sin. One Bengali gentleman who came here and he was going in the rickshaw. So he was talking to rickshaw fellow in Bengali, Naturally, he doesn't know. So he spoke in Tamil. So there was confusion. So he got a little annoyed. Why he doesn't know Bengali now? This is too much. You have come to Tamil Nadu. You should know Tamil. And if you don't know Tamil, be thankful enough that at least you can converse in broken Hindi or English. He said, why doesn't, it's almost like convicting him. Audacious sin.
Yeah.
How dare he doesn't know? So sometimes it happens. People from Odisha also, they ask, how come you don't know? It's okay, I don't know. I should know many languages. Let me first learn French and Sanskrit. Which are then I learn all other. And Tamil, I think we should learn Tamil. I do believe that, somebody who has, I have not learned, I am not good at languages, but I do appreciate those who can learn it because, that they have given the land to the Lord for this work. So it's something wonderful. So, abhorring change as an audacious sin. India 30 years back was like that.
Yes.
If, somebody did something which was not according to the custom and tradition, it was unimaginable. Even today I was reading when women started joining police and this thing, they were left out. The house abandoned them. And
in the US, where I live, there are sects of the Amish.
Yes.
Dunkers.
Yes.
No dancing, no television, no music. And anything against that is an audacious sin.
Yes. So that's how it is. Distrustful of each new discovery, only it advances step by careful step. So that's one of the big hurdles that Sri Aurobindo's message meets. Oh, he is saying something which is not in the traditions. And Sri Aurobindo said, if going beyond tradition is a sin, then every great being has done it. From Buddha and Shankara to, of course, Krishna and even Rama. People, quote Rama as tradition. But in his own time, Rama did things which were entirely revolutionary. From the way he created the yagnas, from the way he redefined human society. Where he picked up, he mingled with the commoner the way no king had ever done up till him. So Rama himself did, even he and Sita, it was unimaginable that a woman will accompany her husband all the way to the forest. So all these things, he was a revolutionary. Then Krishna did many revolutionary things. Shankara, of course, and Buddha, and now when Sri Aurobindo does the same change, because it advances further. People are distrustful and fears as if a deadly abyss the unknown. So people are afraid to come to Sri Aurobindo because they don't know what they are signing for. Yes, that's why it's a leap of faith. They prefer the same old church and mosque and the temple. Even many persons, at the end of the day, after coming to Sri Aurobindo and doing pranam and everything, somewhere they are beginning to feel something is there. They want to make sure they mark their attendance in Ganpati temple, lest the Hindu gods get offended. So they find very comforting that, Sri Aurobindo speaks of Maheshwari, Mahakali and Mahalakshmi, Mahasaraswati. But when they come to know that, Christmas is also celebrated, then again why Christmas is celebrated? Because, so I have to tell them, Sri Ramakrishna mission also celebrates Christmas. By the way, it is celebrated as Born Noel, the return of the light. And what's wrong if Christmas is also celebrated? But Sri Aurobindo's yoga is not Christianity or Hinduism. It's far beyond.
Yes.
But people want to reduce it to that, because that's the way this mind, it's afraid. It doesn't feel, people believe that, will the gods be offended if I do this? So let them be offended. It's okay if they are so not too happy with the way human spirit advances ahead.
Mother cautions us that the worst thing in this yoga is fear.
Fear is the greatest impurity.
The greatest impurity.
I have read Swami Vivekananda says that, one of the signs of the realized soul is Abhyam, he is afraid of nothing. And that's its attribute. A prudent treasurer of its ignorance. This is wonderful.
Yeah.
Oh, I have read this there, I have read that there, and I know it. Oh, it's ignorance. Treasurer. It shrinks from adventure, blinks at glorious hope. Sri Aurobindo brings a new hope, future advancing towards its own realization. And we are busy making him the past. He is the future. Advancing means his work will not stop.
Absolutely.
With or without the body. That's how the mother puts it. Blinks. Somebody was telling me, oh, it's like a fairy tale. I said, yes, it's a fairy tale. Now, you want to live with the stupidly harsh realities, if you take it, it's not a fairy tale for me. Or you want to work for something which is completely a new adventure into the unknown. Now that's your calling. It's a calling that one takes. Rather than running on the level ground from cradle to a grave. His hope a star above the cradle and the grave. That's the safe life. So, preferring a safe foothold upon things to the dangerous joy of wideness and of height. This also people raise when people come to ashram. You must practice yoga while in life. Sri Aurobindo has said. So with all your family and everything, which is okay, it has its point, but a time may come when you have to give everything to the bonfire and go ahead. So be it. So yoga is like that. It's an adventure.
You must see so much of this.
I have
as a
seen,
doctor and
I have
psychologist.
seen not only doctor, psychologist, personally. When I ask for release, all these questions. And the worst is, now I am living, in Desiree, its
Yes.
mother's place, because that's how the ashram asked me, and it's wonderful, near the ashram.
Yes.
Before that, I was living with family. So people would quote others. See, he is also living with family. So you must also live with family, not realizing living with family is not the issue. Now I don't know what example, because now it's not about that. Love should be there and everything should be there. But eventually yoga is yoga. It's a fire that will burn down all even the relics of the past. So that's how it is. That's why he's saying to the dangerous joy of wideness and of height. How Sri Aurobindo, whom does he call? With the wind and the weather beating around me, up to the hill and the moorland I go. Who will come with me? Who shall walk with me? Wade through
and brook through the snow.
and brook through the snow. So that is how, that's the joy and beauty in it. What's the point of doing what everyone else is busy doing? Life is not for that.
The adventure of consciousness
Yes.
and joy.
Joy. The world's slow impressions on its laboring mind, tardy imprints almost indelible, you cannot erase them, increase their value by their poverty. What a remarkable line. Because there are number of these imprints, therefore you believe they are, I had read in the newspaper, every day newspaper feeds us. And they are imprints. All around you will hear, life is worst, There was a very nice, politics sometimes feeds you on fear.
Oh, yes.
Because that's how people will vote. You know, if this leader comes, this is going to happen. He is going to do this, he is going to do that, he is going to destroy the world, everything. Because, politics feeds on that. So then people begin to wonder, oh my God, it's going to harm me. Okay, let me vote for him. When he comes, there is another kind of fear that will be generated. Business world feeds on fear. The world of advertisement feeds on fear. So this is how we are kept tied, and we think those imprints are so hard to remove, and we think that that's that's of value, but actually it is nothing but poverty.
Yes.
We know people used to read newspaper, and when they asked mother, she said, okay, you can keep it in that room.
Yeah.
And she named the room of falsehood. So all the news they had, but the real news of the great advent and what was happening, that is agenda. Amazing. That was news.
Yes.
But nobody was bothered about it. They were seeing the atom bomb, and they were seeing the how forces are aligning and everything. And they were seeing this discovery, this event, that event, and every day countless events. This prime minister, that dying, that person vanishing, statistics. But the real work which was going on. The old, sure memories are its capital stock. Only what sense can grasp seems absolute. External fact it figures as sole truth. Wisdom identifies with the earthward look. So that's what is called as practical life. That all this is fine, God and everything, but you should be practical. As if God is impractical. He is the most practical person. I always say, practicing equanimity is the most practical thing in life, because it saves you from many issues. Having inner peace is the most practical thing in life, because you are like a big cushion. Surrendering to the divine is the most practical of all. Just imagine that the divine takes care of you. That is the most practical thing for this life and lives to come. And people think it's impractical. They think the practical thing is you should run your life the way your ego believes you should run. As far as God is concerned, go for satsang, read something, and then Now that is the most impractical thing. That story which I recount of one judge and retired judge and a businessman who used to go for satsang in Delhi ashram. One day the businessman fell sick, and his son said, Papa, can I go with uncle? So his father gave him a slap. No, you go inside and study. So his friend told him, why are you doing this? He is asking for something nice. Let him come. He said, no, Judge Sahab, you don't understand. We are mature people. We'll go for satsang, but we know how to keep our balance. This fellow will start believing and doing those things. He may actually decide, I want to go to ashram and lead my life there. So this is our approach, Few more lines, then we'll stop. Wisdom identifies with the earthward look, and things long known and actions always done are to its clinging hold a balustrade. What a word Sri Aurobindo uses. Yeah. It's a end of a balcony or something which you hold, it doesn't want to let go.
No.
This let go, which is so important, that famous story, Zen story, that there is a man who falls from a height and catches a tree, and he just can't let go. There is a small little branch, and he says, God help me, and he says, let go. He says, oh please, I don't want that philosophy, come and help me. Again he hears the voice, I am saying, my child, let go. He says, this is a dangerous God. So he says, hello, is there somebody else out there to help? Whole night he stays, freezes. And then when the daybreak comes, there was right below a firm ground on which he could have landed had he let go. Now this is a story of, obviously, it's not about its truth, but it's an illustrative story. Yes. When he says let go, what does he mean? He says that I am there to hold you in my lap. But you have to let go. He will not forcibly snatch us from the lap of the world. But we have a choice that look, lap of the world or lap of the world mother. So, intelligent choice. Or to its clinging hold a balustrade of safety on the perilous stair of time, all the time fear.
What a
Heavens, trust to it are the established ancient ways, immutable laws man has no right to change. A sacred legacy from the great dead past, or the one road that God has made for life. A firm shape of nature never to be changed, part of the huge routine of the universe. These lines we'll read tomorrow,
Yes.
but just with one line of the mother we can end. It says that it doesn't want to change. And the mother says, but I have come to change the law.
Yes.
I have come to change the law.
Take a few moments of meditation.